Can we go back to something we talked about in the beginning about Berlin? Is just it'd be fascinating to learn more about this culture. Are you still connected? I'm sure you've been to some wild parties. I've been told that Berlin has some wild parties.
Well, it had them in the 90s. I mean, it had the best clubs that I mean, it was just a dream, you go into this club. But I was also in my mid-20s, so I go into this club, I take MDMA, and the DJ is amazing, and the sound system is crazy, and there's like 500 people on MDMA just dancing for like 8 hours.
And that's when electronic music was really,
Yeah, it was really good.
yeah.
Like a friend of mine, he runs now Club of Visionaries, which is kind of a famous underground club in Berlin. And he asked me in the early 2000s when this club was offered to him, should I do this? And I said, Gregor, techno is over. Electronic music is dead. But obviously it's not dead. It's still going on. But in the 90s, it was new. So you really went into the club and you heard something you'd never heard before. And the first time I came from New York, and New York was a very old school kind of urban place. I mean, rock and roll or grunge music. And I came to Berlin. It was in a club called Eimer Bucket in East Berlin. Doesn't exist anymore. Like in a totally rundown, like squat. And I went to the bar and I had a beer. And I looked, and there was just a few people on the dance floor and this like electronic music, which I'd never heard before. And the guy in front of me, he looked like an East Berlin skinhead kind of type of guy, but like totally smiling. I'm sure he was on ecstasy, and he was disassembling like an imaginary machine. And I just looked at this guy. He was like, for 1 hour, he was just like doing the most complicated like things. And I was like, this is a totally different way of moving. And I liked that, actually. I liked to dance in clubs. Yeah. And I did this for like 2 years very intensely with my girlfriend at the time. We went out a lot. Like from Friday to Monday, basically. But it means, and a lot of people still do that in Berlin, but it means that you cannot really work. I mean,
Yeah, you escaped that. It's interesting that you were able to do that for a short time, just as an experience, and then go on to be
yeah, I
extremely
mean,
productive.
for me, it was also kind of research, even though I didn't know this.
I mean, life is research in a way, if you allow it to be.
I could not have written these books on history and drugs without having had these drug experiences, because I mean, also, like when I wrote about methamphetamine and the Nazis, I asked, at the time, weed was illegal in Germany. So I asked the friend of mine, she's a cannabis dealer, I guess you would say. I said, can you also get me crystal meth? And she was like shocked, like, no, because she was a weed dealer. But then she found like a Polish guy who actually had crystal meth. I just wanted to have it. It was like the Paul Schrader thing when he wrote the screenplay to Taxi Driver. He had like a gun in his drawer, so he would like, get the vibe of like danger. And so I wanted to have this crystal meth. So this Polish guy sold it to me, and he gave me a zero without me saying anything. And maybe my French, maybe she said he's a writer or something, but he gave me a Xerox. He gave me the methamphetamine 1 gram and the Xerox copy of the patent of Pervitin from 1938. So this was a crystal meth dealer that actually had a historical
knowledge. Yeah.
knowledge about it. So
Did you ever try it?
Yeah, well, then I tried it because I really wanted. I could not really write about it in the same way without having tried it. I can't recommend it. It feels very toxic. Like when you take a psychedelic, I can say this with a clear conscience. It's not toxic. LSD is not toxic. It doesn't poison you. You might have reactions in your brain that are too much for you. But if you snort crystal meth, it goes on your central nervous system. Your heart starts pounding. Your blood pressure rises. So it's stressful on the organism. It's toxic, But still, the effect in the brain is not so interesting as with LSD. Like you couldn't go crazy, I would say, on crystal meth. You just have you're just very much awake, but you don't have like crazy thoughts that you can't, evaluate anymore. So it's a very, very, very different drug. But taking that, of course, made me understand better how a soldier feels in the tank. Taking it.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important to do. I have to ask your friend Alex, it sounds like he's taken every single drug there is. Has he spoken about like what's the most interesting drug? Like what's his favorite drug? He seems like a connoisseur, right?
but he's not a psychedelic guy, so
Oh, well then, okay.
he's more into the addictive drugs.
It's very difficult, I guess. Yeah, that would be a special person that can be a really sort of, a full-on explorer of the drug space. Because if you get into psychedelics, then you don't really want to do the hard drugs. If you get the
No.
hard drugs, you don't want to.
Yeah,
And
right. They contradict each other.
they do contradict each other. Yeah.
That's why we spend less and less time together.